Нікіта, зроби світліше камеру, будь ласка.
It's June 20, Ukraine Media Center, Ukrinform continues its operation. My name is Svetlana Shiparenko. Today the world commemorates an International Day of the Refugee. We know how many Ukrainian refugees are currently abroad. We have a lot of internally displaced persons due to the aggression of Russian Federation. And now we will be talking about the situation with Ukrainian refugees with Karolina Lindholm, UNHCR representative in Ukraine.
You in Media Center Ukraine Ukrinform. So today is the World Refugees Day. How do we mark this day in Ukraine, and what topic is central for this International Day in 2023 for the whole world? I think it might be connected with Ukraine.
So every year on the 20th of June, World Refugee Day is highlighted or commemorated to really bring attention to the plight of people who have been forced to flee from their homes, their communities due to wars, conflicts or persecution. And this year, on World Refugee Day, we know that 110 million people are forcibly displaced across the world as refugees abroad or as internally displaced within their country. And this is a 19% increase since 2021, and a big reason for that increase is, of course, Russia's invasion of Ukraine, which has forced about a third of the population of Ukraine from their homes at one point. To flee within the country or flee abroad. And the theme this year, the global theme, is called Hope Away from Home, a world where refugees and internally displaced people feel included and can find solutions. And I think this theme is very, very relevant and important for the situation in Ukraine, because we know that the absolute majority of Ukrainians who have fled abroad to Poland, Moldova, Germany, other countries are really longing to return to their home in Ukraine. That's their biggest wish and desire to do so. We also know that the majority of internally displaced people are longing to return to their homes, and because we do surveys regularly on this. But we also know that both those who are abroad as refugees or internally displaced also hope that while they are displaced, they can recover from the horrible traumas of the war. They can find a new job, they can find somewhere to live, and they can feel included socially, economically in their new communities. So I think this global theme is very relevant for the situation in Ukraine today.
Ms. Karolina, do you have an exact number of Ukrainian refugees in the world, or maybe in different continents, and how many children are there?
So it's about 6.3 million Ukrainians currently who are abroad, mainly in European countries as refugees seeking protection, mainly on temporary protection in European countries. And the majority are women and children. So it's a very high number still.
Do we still have good and strong support from countries, or maybe it goes less than it was before and when the whole war was started?
I think there is still a strong support and solidarity, and UNHCR every single day works to highlight the continued needs. We highlight that the invasion continues, people continue being suffering, fleeing due to attacks, and that those who have now been displaced for almost 16 months, over time, needs often grow. So we advocate with the international community for that. And I do think there is still a lot of support and solidarity, but it's important to keep that up, and we will certainly contribute to highlighting the plight and needs across Ukraine.
The war in Ukraine is one of the most massive forced displacements crisis in the history of the United Nations. What challenges did it bring to the UN, and how did it affect to activities of the UN Refugee Agency in Ukraine?
Well, as you say, it's the biggest, it's the highest number of displaced people within the shortest period of time since World War II. And that, of course, brings enormous challenges because you need to respond to so many people within a short period of time. And also, as we know, when the invasion started, it affected logistics, ability to bring in supplies, to deliver supplies to frontline areas. But the government and the local authorities and the volunteers, the local organizations were really leading this response as they should be, and we were contributing to that. What it has changed is, before the full-scale invasion, the UN Refugee Agency had a small operation in eastern Ukraine, Mariupol, Sloviansk, Severodonetsk, along the contact line. But then we had to scale up very quickly to support the needs of many more people across the country. And I think now our priority continues to be that emergency support when new emergencies hit people, to be there as quickly as possible with our partners to deliver support, like emergency shelter kits, repair kits, hygiene items, and so on. But it's also to support people who are recovering, the millions of people who have been able to return to their homes in Kyivska Oblast, for example, Chernihiv, so that they can rebuild their houses and start their life again looking forward.
So about this, please tell us about the support that the UN Refugee Agency provides to Ukrainians, in particular this program you mentioned about housing reconstruction. Tell us more about this program, please.
So this is one of the areas where UNHCR work. We're a humanitarian agency, so we don't do large reconstruction projects like development banks. But what we do is we do repairs of houses, new roofs, windows, doors, if there is a hole in the wall of an individual house or an apartment. And so far we have repaired 12,000 individual houses in different oblasts of Ukraine, and this work continues. Another more emergency response is the delivery of emergency shelter kits. It's a package with 10 items, tarpaulin, OSP, and so on, that people can use to make quick repairs. And that has supported, just this year, 76,000 people have been supported with emergency shelter kits. And last year, it was around the same number. We also provide construction materials so people can repair houses themselves. And then we are doing a pilot of prefabricated modular homes from a Ukrainian company that are delivered to families whose houses have been completely destroyed. So they can put this on their own land, in their garden, next to their destroyed house, and not have to live as a displaced person in a collective center or somewhere else. And that is scaling up this year. But last year, we supported 165,000 people with emergency shelter or this housing repair and support, including in collective centers. And this year, so far, 96,000 people.
How people can apply for this house repairing program?
So the way the house repairs, we receive lists from the Hromada about houses damaged in their Hromada that need repair. They send this to UNHCR, and together with our local NGO partners, we visit the houses to check if they meet the criteria for our house repair programs. And then the work can start. either by having a construction company, Ukrainian company, go and replace the roof and the windows, or we provide cash, money, if the family can themselves buy material and do repairs, or we provide the material for the repairs. So 3 different ways.
Thank you. I will ask my colleagues about questions.
I'll ask in English, Ukrinform, Ivan Kosakin. Distinguished Madam Billing, I have 2 questions. I will ask one by one. First one is that a big problem is Ukrainian refugees in Russia. Many of them didn't have a choice where to flee. They are stuck there. Russia didn't open a green corridor through the front line, and they might be relocated far away from Ukraine in Siberia or Vladivostok. Do you know any situations that Ukrainian refugees try to get away from Russia back to their relatives in Ukraine, back to their relatives in Europe? Do you provide any assistance to them? Thank you.
Well, first of all, we advocate that any Ukrainian in Russia or in another country should always have the right to return to their home country, which is Ukraine. This is number 1. That's their human right, and that should be respected. If there are Ukrainians in Russia who, for example, don't have documents or don't have financial means to travel back to Ukraine, then they can contact UNHCR's office there and seek support with this. We know that we know of Ukrainians who return to Ukraine, and this is ongoing, and that's very important that they are allowed to, admitted and able to come back. And our office is contacted by Ukrainians who have been in this situation, come back, and now, for example, need help to renew their Ukrainian documents.
And the second question, we all are well aware about refugees in the EU countries, in our neighboring countries like Turkey, Caucasian countries, but could you name, please, some examples that Ukrainian refugees emerge in the distant countries, maybe in Chile, maybe in Japan, maybe in Thailand? Do you know these numbers? Thank you.
Yes, there are a few. As you say, majority in European countries, but also in the United States, in Canada, Australia, or in South America. And you know, my colleagues who work in those countries are in contact with some of the Ukrainians who reached out and have established, you know, a life in these countries and are looking for employment or housing. So yes, the Ukrainians are, because they also have contacts in many countries from before the full-scale invasion.
Mrs. Karolina, thank you very much for coming. Thank you for your information. Я нагадаю, що з нами була Кароліна Ліндхольм, Білінг, представниця управління Верховного комісара ООН у справах біженців. Медіа-центр Україна Укрінформ продовжує свою роботу.
Thank you very much. I'm reminding you that joining us was Karolina Lindholm, Billing, UNHCR representative in Ukraine. So stay tuned. Our team is working for the schedule for tomorrow. See you shortly.